Okay, so yesterday I did the video in 4th hour for objective 84, but objective 85, this is the big, scary objective 85. It says apply properties of exponents. So we've been talking about exponents. Yesterday we talked about what it meant to be a negative exponent. This one, objective 85, which is going to take us a couple days to try to wrap your mind around it. Some of you might not survive. You're just going to like die trying to do objective 85.
That's lovely that you
So,
think that.
well, it happens every year. We lose a couple kids. If you ever wonder where some kids go as you get through high school, it's because they ran into objective 85 and they just didn't make it. Yeah, and we kind of forget about them, but this is what happens. All right, this objective is going to combine a whole bunch of exponent properties all at the same time. So there, it looks like we've got like 3 pages of notes. Really, every page is like one example. So when you do this, you're going to have to write it out, and it's going to take like 1 step and 2 steps and 3 steps. So go ahead and kill some trees because you're going to have to write everything out. It's going to take a whole page sometimes. Now I'm starting out with an easier one. And this little note right here at top. Anything with a 0 exponent. You might have been told this in the past, you might have forgot. Anything with a 0 exponent is just a 1. So if I took this calculator and just created some number, so just give me some single digit numbers.
7, 2, 9, 3, 4.
7, 2,
9,
4.
3, 4.
9, 3,
8.
12 is not a single digit number.
8.
7.
1 and 2. 8.
Who said 12?
8. Yeah, single digit number is not
Who
here.
said 12?
Okay, give me 2 more digits.
7.
Somebody better own up to it.
6.
Oh, I got
No,
one.
that's it. That's it.
No.
Okay, so this is
It
a.
was
No, it
12.
wasn't.
Here's a really big number
You.
that we
Alright.
created.
Okay, we created.
Really big number that we created. If I put a 0 exponent on this, it's going to turn
1.
into 1. Because anything
Actually, it's going to turn to 12.
Anything with a 0 exponent is going to become a 1. So when you're doing problems on this objective, when you see a 0 exponent, you're going to just scratch it out. We're not going to care. We're going to go, hey, that's just a 1. So if you see like a G to the 0, you can scratch it out. If you see an H to the 0 or an X to the 0, scratch it out. And occasionally, you're going to see a parenthesis. And it's going to have a whole bunch of junk in that parenthesis. But then at the end, they're going to put a 0 up on that parenthesis. So what you get to do is scratch the whole parenthesis out. It's going to be this ugly looking parenthesis of junk. But if it has a 0 exponent, you scratch the whole parenthesis out. So keep an eye open for that. So on this one, x to the 0 is 1. It's going to happen on one of these examples. We'll have some 0 exponents. All right, here's your first problem. Now, on the scale of 1 to 10 for objective 85, this is like a 1 or a 2. They're going to get more difficult from here. All right, we've got 4b to the negative 4, and then a parenthesis 3b to the 6 to the negative 2. The first thing that we want to do is anything that has a negative exponent, circle. This negative exponent is attached to the b. So you see the 4, leave the 4 alone. The 4 does not have an exponent. So the b goes negative 4, circle this. The parenthesis has a negative exponent. So circle the parenthesis. Now yesterday when we talked about what negative exponents mean, what did we learn? The bottom of the top thing, right? The first example we had is I said, if you have k to the negative 2, we turn it into what?
1 over k.
1 over k2. So anything with a negative exponent, now this is not a fraction right now, but what we are getting it to do is make it a fraction so that I can take this down bottom, and I can take this down bottom. There's one thing that stays up top here. That 4. It doesn't have an exponent. So be careful when you're moving things from top to bottom. The 4 does not have an exponent, so leave it where it is, which is up top. So down bottom, what you have now is this b to the negative 4 is now b4. And the parenthesis, 3b to the 6, now 2. So I brought this to the bottom, and I brought this to the bottom, and I have a 4 on top. So that's your first step. If you have things with negative exponents, move them down. If they were down, move them up. So go up and down with your negative exponents. The second thing we need to realize here, you have a parenthesis. This is 3b to the 6th squared. So the second thing we need to do is deal with the parentheses squared. And here's what is inside the parenthesis. That 3 and that b6. This square must go to the 3 first and then the b6 second. So if I go to the 3, I'm going, what is 3 squared? 9. So 3 squared is 9. So down here I'm going to have my b4. That's this b4. Now I have a 9. And when I take this square over to the 6, what it means is I've got b6 twice. So I got b6 and b6. So how many b's do I really have? 12. 12 of them. If I go b6 squared, you multiply your exponents. So b6 means that you're multiplying 12 b's. So it's b12. So take the 2 to the 3 and make it 3 squared, not 3 times 2. It's 3 squared, so it's 9. Take the 2 over here to the 6 and you multiply the exponents to the exponents, and it comes b12. The last thing that we need to do is simplify the bottom. Put the 9 up front. So you got 4 over 9. And then what we have, notice that there are no plus or minus signs down here. So what you're really doing is you're multiplying b4 times 9 times b12. So this is b times b times b times b times 9 times b, 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 a whole bunch of b's. How many b's are there total? Getting
16.
16. So I'll put 9 times b16. And we're done. One thing that you do need to check though is if the 4 and 9 as a fraction of 4 nines, does that reduce? And it doesn't, so 4 nines doesn't reduce. If this said 4 eighths, you reduce it. If it said 4 twelfths, we would reduce it. Or even 4 halves, you'd reduce it. But 4 nines doesn't reduce. So that's your first one, and that's your final answer.
When do we take, I thought when the top number is anything but 1, you bring that thing up.
What you talking about this 4?
Yeah.
4 over 9, no. We'll just leave it as 4.
Okay.
You can have a 4 up top in your final answer. Okay, on your next example, if I was going to rate this on difficulty, this one is more like a 5 or a 6. Look how ugly this thing is. This is where we lose students every year, sadly.
What?
Yes.
Wait, no, I didn't hear what you said.
This one, I said, look how ugly that is.
You lost me.
I lost, I know. Jacob, are you still with us?
Yeah.
Still has a heartbeat.
So then we'll go 2 to the
Okay.
-5.
But wait, before we start though,
It's
what
negative 0,
do
so cross it out.
do you have an exponent that's a 0?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right here. In the midst of all this, ugliness, there is one thing that has a 0. It's g to the 0. And what do we say about anything with a 0 exponent?
Cross it
Make
out.
it a
Cross it
1.
out. It's really a 1, so we're just going to cross it out. It doesn't affect anything that we're doing. So g to the 0 is 1, so just cross it out here. So if you're looking at on your Kindle and you're getting ready to put it on your paper, I wouldn't even write it. I would write everything else, but I'm not going to write waste lead on g to the 0. It's just a 1. Everything else, put it in that parenthesis.
So if you're going to write it down, you'd put like -3h. in the
6.
parentheses,
I go
and then
negative 3h6 and close it. Yeah. It's like it's a ghost. It's gone.
Alright.
It's not even there.
So
Okay.
the 2 to the 5.
Wait, what?
Here's the first thing that we need to do. It's negative exponents. But instead of all these little pieces, think of it as you have this chunk to the 2, and then you've got this chunk to the negative
You
1.
have to circle the second one and move it down.
Yeah. So we're going to take this whole chunk, this whole parenthesis,
You don't have to circle it.
just like it is. Well, on the note, for the note's sake, I'll go, okay, look, here's what I'm doing. Circle it, and sometimes I'll put a little down arrow. So this will stay up top, and then this one will come down bottom. And yeah, this isn't a fraction right now. It's getting ready to be a fraction. So up top, you've got negative 5g, negative 4h, negative 6 squared. And down bottom, you're going to bring this whole thing down bottom, and you can change that exponent from negative 1 to positive 1, even though, I mean, we don't really
But all the
need...
negative stuff inside stays the same.
Yeah, if there was, you bring this down exactly like it is. Think of it as a chunk, and you're just bringing it down, and that's it.
Okay.
Jacob, what's up?
What if you have a 0 as your exponent outside of your parentheses?
Then if this was a 0 right here,
Yeah.
I would say scratch it all out. It's not even a factor, but that's not what we have.
Okay, but I was just asking.
Yeah.
That's
If the whole parenthesis had a big zero outside of it,
Yeah.
then that's a freebie. You get to cross that whole parenthesis out.
Will
Okay.
it
I hope
do
we
that?
have lots
Yes.
of
It
those.
Yes.
will.
Yeah.
Do we have lots of those? Because I hope so.
They will, just think of when they come up, they will happen. Okay, take care of the exponents on the parenthesis. Remember one thing though, I put a 1 right here. You don't, if you bring it down and it's just a positive 1, you don't need it. Like a 1 exponent doesn't mean anything. So really, you can get rid of the parenthesis in the 1 exponent. Because 1 exponent doesn't mean anything. We've got to take care of our exponents. Now, here's how we have to do it. Up top, the big chunk up top, all that business up top has a 2 exponent with it.
You have to take it and distribute it up.
Yeah, I've got to distribute it to 3 things. The -5, the G, and the H. So here's what you have to do. When you take it to your -5, you need to do -5 squared. If you're going to do it on your calculator though, if you want to square a -5,
Parentheses.
you must hug it in a parenthesis. As a general rule, if you're going to square or put any exponent on a negative number, hug it in a parenthesis. Don't go -5 squared without that parenthesis.
It's 25.
It's positive 25.
Yeah.
So up top, we have positive 25. Now I take this 2 and I go to the -4. And when you just go on an exponent to another exponent, we're just going to multiply. So this is now G to the what?
8. -8.
-8 though.
And then negative.
And then this is H to the -12.
12.
So when you're taking an outside exponent to an inside exponent, you just multiply the exponent. So it's -8, and then this one is -12. And then down bottom, you can, if it's a 1 exponent, you don't have to distribute it. Just write it without the parentheses. So you got -3 H6. All right, at this point, I see things that have negative exponents. I would circle this G -8. I would circle this H -12. And what am I going to do with them? They're going to come down. Make sure, one mistake that people make is they say, oh, this G -8 is coming down. That means the 25 comes with it. The 25 is its own person. And it has no exponent. So it stays up top. Bring you down and bring you down. So up top is still 25.
Will the H's go together?
They will, I'm going to write them separate first. I'm going to go G to the 8, H to the 6, H to the 12.
And then combine that times pretty much.
Well, yeah, we're going to combine our H's. I'm going to say how many H's am I actually
Yeah.
multiplying. This is H, 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 and then this is H, 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 H. How many H's is that total?
How are you so good at that? Wait.
18 H's.
How is he so good at what?
Same.
It's like exactly 8 of them.
But it's supposed to be 12.
No, I'm in
G, 8, H, 18, and a lot of times that negative down bottom, they will actually put it over here to the left. Just that's where they're going to put it. So -25/3, G8, H18. However, keep in mind, this is the final answer. One thing that you always need to check is, does this fraction of 25 over -3 or -25/3, does the fraction reduce at all?
No.
And it doesn't, but you do need to check that, because if you had like 25/5, they'll reduce the numbers. That's why I would get those numbers to the left, and then you can just reduce it and see if it reduces. Like on this one, -25/3 won't. It won't reduce, so that is the answer.
Wait, so, oh, never mind.
So -25/3.
These are really easy.
Okay, here we go with, this would be more like a level 9, a level 8 or 9 on this subjective. Number 3. Unfortunately, you've got no freebies, you got no zeros. Here's the good news though. You have no negative exponents at all.
So we
So
don't have to change it.
There's
to
no
the
flipping.
down.
Where do you think I'm going to go first with this?
The 3.
The chunk that has the 3 exponent. I've got a parenthesis with a 3 exponent. So what I want to do is distribute it out first to the 3, to the x, and to the y. So up top, if I'm writing up top, I'm going to write this part first. I got -5x6, that's not disputed. But then I've got to go, what is 3 to the third? 3, no, it's 3 times 3 times 3.
27.
27. 3 to the third is 27.
Still going to parentheses, right?
No, we can get rid of the parentheses at this point. It's 3 to the third is 27. You could put parentheses if you want, but you don't need them here. 27, and then I've got x to the third to the third.
To the 9.
Make sure you say it's x9. It's not x6. We don't go x to the third and make x6. You multiply it. It's x9. And then I got y to the what?
12.
Y to the 12. One thing that is important to understand here, on all of these problems, there are no plus signs and there are no minus signs. Negative signs might pop up, but we're just multiplying all of this business. All of these pieces are just being multiplied on top and bottom. No plus or minus signs. That makes it a total different beast. So here's what you have up top. You have a negative 5 and a 27. They're supposed to be multiplied. This is negative 5 times x to the 6 times 27 times x to the 9 times y 12. So I want to multiply negative 5 and 27. What is that?
Negative 135.
Negative 135.
Wait, what?
Because they're both x.
Yeah, because everything up here is being multiplied, so I want to multiply the numbers, and I get negative 135. Now when I multiply my x's, I got 6 x's, and I'm multiplying it with 9 x's for a grand total of how many?
15.
There's 15 x's being multiplied, and then there's 12 y's. And then the bottom stays the same. Okay, when it comes to this fraction will actually reduce. So you always have to say, will my numbers, will these reduce? Reduce that. It does reduce here.
It could reduce by, those could reduce by 5 there.
Negative 15 over 4.
Yeah, that's it. So I need to reduce that fraction. So I look, and it reduces to negative 15 over 4. So what I have is negative 15 over 4. Now when it comes to the x's, you got x's on top of x's. Where are there fewer x's? Up top or down bottom? Down bottom. So mentally come down bottom. And you see these 5 x's? They're going to cross out 5 of those
So
x's.
leaves 10.
Leaves 10 x's up top. These 5 x's will cross out 5 of those. So it leaves you x10. Now where are there fewer y's?
Up top.
Up top. There's 12 of these y's. They're going to cross out 12 of those y's, leaving with how many y's down here?
12 on the bottom.
12 y's down bottom. These 12 will
Oh, I was
cross out
talking about that.
12 of those. And there's your answer. When you have y's up top and down bottom, go to where there's fewer and say these fewer x's will cross out this many on the other side. And the same with the y's. Okay. We're going to look at the example here on the left. Now, we don't have any zeros. I wouldn't even think of zeros as a step, but just if you look across and see zeros, cross them out. We don't have any zero exponents. So what do you think we're going to do first?
The negative, the chunk.
We're going to do we'll do the chunk because
It has a negative.
it has a negative. Anything negative. So I put this line under it. Let's go. Anything negative, where's it going to go? Down bottom. So this, and then the whole chunk, it has a negative 3, but let's just deal with the negative part of it and bring it down. So all 3 things, this, and that whole chunk goes down. What stays up?
The negative 4.
Negative 4. So I'm just going to write x to the 4th y squared. Now one thing about that chunk, there are negative exponents inside the chunk.
But it stays.
Yeah, you're going to have to bring it down exactly like it looks. All we're doing is taking it from being a negative 3 chunk to being a 3 chunk. You have to leave it as negative 2, x to the negative 3, y to the negative 1. And then I cross all that out.
We should have just made a whole new one.
Well, I'm trying to save some space there. Negative 4 is the only thing up top. Just keep that in mind. All this other business came down, came down, came down. Okay, now that I brought everything down, I still have a big chunk that has an exponent on it. So what do I have to do?
Distribute.
Just distribute this out. You are taking a 3 exponent to a negative 2. So how are we going to do it? I've got to go negative.
second.
Be eight.
Negative 2 to the third.
It'll be a positive.
Careful.
It would be negative.
I need you to put it in like negative 2 to the third exponent, which is negative 2
Negative
times
8.
negative 2 times negative 2. Negative 8. Negative 2 times negative 2 is 4 times another negative 2 makes it negative 8. So when I go to rewrite this, I'm going to have my negative 4 up top. I got my x4, I got my y2. Now I have a negative 8. I'll put that negative 8 in a parenthesis just because I need you to know we're not subtracting anything. Everything is being multiplied. There's no pluses and minuses. Okay, my x to the negative 3 now becomes x to the what?
Negative 47.
Negative, just multiply. Just multiply.
9.
Negative 9. And my y to the negative 1 becomes y to the negative 3. So to take this 3 exponent, you go negative 2 cubed, made negative 8. X to the negative 3, you multiply here, it makes negative 9. Y to the negative 1, you multiply, it makes negative 3. They might go back up. Let's just get it all together. So I'm going to write my negative 4 up top. Move the negative 8 to the far left. You remember, this is all just, I'm multiplying this piece times this piece times this piece times this piece times this piece. So it doesn't matter what order. I'm going to move the negative 8 left. And now I've got 4x's and negative 9x's. Just add the exponents, and that gives you negative 5. So x negative 5. I've got 2y's and negative 3y's, so I just add those, and it makes y to the negative 1. Almost there. Two things on our final answer here. There's two things we want to do. First, I need you to reduce this fraction. A negative 4 over negative 8 will become what? Positive 1 over 2. Positive 4 over positive 8. Then you go, oh, that's positive 1/2. Negative 4 over negative 8 becomes positive 1/2. So I end up with 1/2. What am I going to do about this right here? It's coming up. And what about this one? It's coming up. So I'll just bring my x to the 5 up here, and I'll bring my y to the 1 up here. And here's my answer. Of course, keep in mind, if you're looking for a multiple choice answer, you are not going to see a 1 here. There just won't be anything here. And you're never going to see a 1 exponent either. But this is it. You won't see this.
So it'll be x to the square or to the x to the 5th and then
Y.
y over 2.
Over 2, yeah. X to the 5th, y over 2 is what you will actually see.
Why didn't you keep those on the bottom?
Because they're negative. You can't finish with negative. What you
Oh,
have to
okay.
do is you have to bring them up so they're positive.
Okay.
Okay, the last one here. What we have up top in this fraction, you've got a chunk, but there's no exponent on it. Give another chunk, no exponent on it, and then in the denominator, you have this big chunk with a negative 3.
So just to start back.
Yeah. Well, before we distribute this area, since it's negative 3, deal with the negative thing first. And the negative does what?
Oh, flip it, no, it up.
Bring it up. So we're really not dealing with the 3 part. It does have a negative 3. Just bring it up, and now there is no denominator at all. So this will come up. And so I'm going to write it over here. This is 2w z to the negative 3, negative 5z, and now I just brought that chunk up just like it was. I even keep it as z to the negative 5, but I changed the chunk to have a positive exponent. So the whole chunk, just like it was, came up. Z to the negative 5, it's still z to the negative 5, but the whole chunk is up. That's it. The second thing we need to do is going to be what? Yeah, you're going to have to. There's only one chunk here that has an exponent. Deal with this 3 right here. So I'm going to take this 3 and I'm going to go here, then here, and then here. As I go 3 cubed, what is 3 cubed? 27. Then I'm going to go w4 to the 3, so it's w to the 12. And then z to the negative 5, as I take that to 3, it's z to the negative 15. So that is it. When you take 3 to the 3rd, you get 27. W to the 4th becomes, you multiply, that'd be 12. And z to the negative 5, you multiply, and it becomes z to the negative 15. Now you can scratch that out. Remember, we are not adding or subtracting. Even if there's a negative 5, I'm not subtracting, I'm multiplying. This times 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 this. So the first thing to multiply would be, let's multiply all these numbers. 2 and negative 5 and 27. 2 times negative 5 times 27 is what? Negative 270. Negative 270. 2 times negative 5 is negative 10 times 27, that's negative 270. Then I'm going to do all my W's. Here's one W, and then I'm also multiplying 12 W's, so how many W's?
13.
There's 13 of them. 13. And lastly, my Z's. And remember, if you have a whole bunch of Z's, just add their exponents. Z to the negative 3 plus 1, so it's Z to the negative 2.
Or negative 17, right?
Yeah, Z to the negative 2 and Z to the negative 15. So it ends up being Z to the negative 17. And we are pretty much done here, except you can't have Z to the negative 17, so where does it go? Goes down. All you got to do is take Z to the negative 17, put it in the denominator. So it's like, it's not a fraction until I draw a line, and then I put my Z 17, and then here's your answer. And so that is it. When you have chunks, when you have parentheses with negative exponents, move them up or down first, and then deal with distributing the exponent inside.
Does it not matter if that negative 270 is on the top?
Yeah, you could. The negative could be on top, or they could move it over here to the left.
Okay.
It won't matter. If it was down bottom, then more often than not, it'll end up over here.
Okay.
But on top or to the left is the same. All right. Hopefully we didn't lose too many students. Jacob still has a heartbeat, so.